Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody. I wanted to start off by asking you, because at the beginning of this episode, there is a very bad date.
Oh, yeah?
And I was wondering if you have any very bad date stories from before you were married, when you were a young person.
Careful.
I don't think I have any bad date stories. Like, usually if we went on a date, we went on a couple. And then it was like, oh, yeah, we aren't going to work out, or we're just going to stop.
What I hear him saying is the other person had bad date stories from Cody.
Fill in
Ask
the
the wrong
blanks.
question.
All right, this is Pop Culture Pastor Watch-Alongs. My name is Dave. Cody's here.
I am present.
You also heard another voice, a guest we have. His name is Rob Cummings. Rob, tell him what you do.
Well, currently I work for Crown Packaging out of Olathe. I get to work remotely from my home and go out. Yeah,
Nice. Is that a COVID thing?
No, not at all, because I was a teacher coach for 17 years before doing this. So,
okay.
Yeah, just decided to make a little change, and now I work from home and go out and make contacts with clients and take them to lunch, take them golfing, and
Oh, wow.
try to get them to buy stuff. Yeah,
You're kind of like a pharmaceutical rep.
yeah. I mean, probably pretty similar, except for packaging goods.
Yeah.
Drugs, packaging goods, same thing.
Yeah. Except you're not working for Incarnate Evil. No, I'm just kidding.
Unless you hate tape.
It was just a joke.
I do hate tape.
This, like I said, is watch-alongs. So what we do is we're just watching Shrinking, Season 3.
Yes.
And we're up to Episode 4, The Field.
Things are happening.
Things are happening. I love that this episode is called The Field. We've been talking about The Field since Dr. Paul brought it up. But yeah, there's nothing left to do except for to get into this episode and start recapping it. We started with Jimmy and Kimmy's date.
Oh, Jimmy.
Jimmy and Kimmy. I love that they said when we meet Kimmy that there's no way this will work simply because of her name.
Exactly.
And they're absolutely right. There's no way a Jimmy and a Kimmy can get together.
Oh, my goodness. This date was such a beautiful train wreck to watch.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, it goes sideways fast. When Jimmy starts sharing the story of his late wife, Tia, Kimmy becomes overwhelmingly emotional, essentially crying more about his grief than he is, so much so that we're told she vomits.
Yes.
It's played as comedic and cringeworthy, but I think thematically we're supposed to see that how far Jimmy has come in processing his own grief, because here he is across the table from someone who is absolutely drowning in the grief that he used to drown in, and he's like just badly trying to get her out of it. Like, what? Where are you from? Chicago, the Bears. You know,
Double.
just name a city.
As I was watching this, I'm like, Kimmy is almost a version of my wife, but more exaggerated. Like, Leah will cry instantly, but she wouldn't cry as so much that she's going to be vomiting.
Yeah.
And would just like completely derail from all conversation and all that jazz.
And your wife's a nurse too, isn't she? She nurse?
Registered medical assistant, so nurse-esque.
Oh, sorry.
Well, you get into
about
liability issues.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that. I'm painfully ignorant of that area of society. But my first thought was like, why is she taking this so hard? She's a nurse. She's probably seen stuff. But then I remembered, no, she's an OB nurse.
Yeah.
So she's just there with new life all the time.
Typically. And then it's interesting because they made a deal about this last episode, and she makes a deal about it this episode. But he brought up that, oh, she's clearly a Christian. It won't work out. And then she brings up like, well, you'll get to see her again, and that she's in the Lord's arms. And he wasn't ready for that.
No.
I never thought we'd see a character in the show that creates a more awkward scene than Jimmy.
Yeah.
I mean, she took it beyond awkward. You know what I mean?
She did.
Yeah. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the joke we didn't bring up last episode, which is she's wearing the cross necklace. He says, I like your necklace. What's the T stand for? That was like the one funny thing he said that she laughed at. Everything else was not funny. We go to the clinic where Jimmy is catching up Dr. Paul on his disaster of a date while they wait for his appointment. It's not the clinic, I should say. He's at his doctor's office.
Yes.
And Paul, Dr. Paul, characteristically dry, notes that it's still good that Jimmy put himself out there.
It is.
He's proud of him, he says.
It's like someone that's afraid of heights at least making their way up to the roller coaster line, and maybe they take the chicken exit before like actually getting on. Like, you were willing to at least get in and go through the hassle of it. It's a baby step.
Well, and the last thing we saw of Jimmy's romantic attempts is him almost getting to what's her name's door before chickening out. Exactly what you just said.
Yes.
So Paul says something nice to him. He said, I'm proud of you. And they have this moment. And then he says, stop staring at me like you were the last dog in the shelter. And then Jimmy comes back with, why are you so afraid of meaningful eye contact? And I just immediately thought of Cody. Like, Cody, why are you so afraid of meaningful eye contact? Every time I lock eyes with you, you look away.
Because I basically am Paul.
Don't run away from your feelings.
I'm trying to become Harrison Ford one day at a time.
We skip around narratively here to check on other characters, but I'll just finish out this scene because technically it happens later in the episode, but it's still part of this scene. They're meeting with Dr. Sykes, who is Paul's doctor, and she asks if she can refer patients to Dr. Paul, which is her way of saying, hey, you're cleared to go back to work. Paul and Jimmy are stoked. They do the yeah thing, and then we cut to the theme song.
Yeah.
Which was sort of adorable to see Paul do a Jimmy.
Hey, I do really love the theme song.
You've mentioned that.
I will keep mentioning it. And
It's a good one.
It is a good scene to see Paul actually try to connect with Jimmy, where I think at the beginning of the series, he couldn't do that because Jimmy was self-sabotaging to the nth degree. And now Jimmy's back, if you will.
It's been so fun to watch Harrison Ford act this season. Like, it just looks like as he's opening up kind of feelings wise at this point in his character's life. And I'm going to speak more on this later because I wanted to just plant the bug in everyone's ear of it looks like Harrison Ford's having a lot of fun. But let's go to the next scene. Brian and Charlie's with Alice and Liz present too. The fellas are planning 3 days, just the three of them with the new baby, who's apparently named Sutton. That was dropped on us, so they named the baby Sutton. Anyways, they're trying to foster more parental time with Sutton, and Liz is preparing them accordingly by quizzing them. How do you know when her diaper is wet? One says the line turns blue, while the other one says easy, listen for the squish. Both of these are acceptable answers, Cody.
Yes.
I was just sitting there at my TV going, what? This? I think that's fine. Yeah, that's a good answer. Good answer. I'm like the guy in Family Feud. Good answer. If you're going to brunch, what is she going to wear? We are not going to brunch. But if we were, yeah, she's Lady Goo Goo Gaga.
That was quite a clever name.
It was. Liz's final act is to plant a stuffed bunny with a camera in the baby's room there. Liz is not healthy, is she, Cody?
No.
She's kind of even a little more over the top this season. It reminded me of, like, you know how everyone always hates, all the younger generations hate on Friends.
Yes.
And they're like, well, these people weren't good people. How could you like this show? And I'm like, here's a show where as it goes on, in the name of comedy, we see a character who's like, this is a red flag, Cody.
Yeah. I'm going to say she's also suffering from empty nest syndrome.
Yes.
Because at least one boy has been in and out of the picture all 3 seasons. Mm-hmm. But now we've put our foot down.
Yeah.
But something you can appreciate about her is her straightforwardness. You always know where Liz stands, and that's something that I definitely appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know.
She is not subtle.
No, not at all.
No.
Raunchy at times, yeah.
We go to Gaby, who is meeting with Maya, and Maya is still stonewalling her because Maya is her client. And Gaby, the audience, and the dude at McDonald's who makes the fries can all see Maya is hiding some pain. But she's not forthcoming. She's not going to say it. She does mention she does trivia nights for fun. But time's up. And that's the end of that conversation. Gaby needs Jimmy to speak to her class last minute. That's the thing that comes up because she gets a phone call right at the end of this conversation.
I had forgotten that she was being a professor.
Yeah. And I was wondering by the end of this scene, I'm like, why is Maya here? Why is this character happening? But then obviously this episode is going to cash in on that, which I'm glad because I was afraid this was just going to be a dangling thread for a while.
Within therapy, you get those.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
It's like, are we going to talk about this anymore?
Yeah. Does that happen a lot?
Depends on the individual, but yeah, especially the ones that are more reserved or aren't comfortable opening up yet. And it's interesting, especially the ones that aren't comfortable opening up and they'll tell you like, I don't want to talk about it, but then they'll overshare random things and then you have to like flesh out why is trivia night a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then we go back to the clinic and Paul's back. Paul's going back to work. But first, Paul has a short convo with Dr. Julie before he leaves the house in the morning, expressing that he's going to miss their morning walks and breakfast in bed. And he says it, so this is a well-delivered line by Harrison Ford because he says it without even really thinking. Like that's the feeling you get, even though you understand there's real feeling attached to it, which is unlike Paul. Paul's usually not so forthcoming with that kind of talk. And she says, you want slow mornings together every day for the rest of our lives? Sign me up. Sign me up, Cody. I'll spend slow mornings with Harrison Ford for the rest of my life. Or his life. Or his life. So tell me about Star Wars, Harrison. Get out.
They should have killed Han ages ago.
So he has this moment, and we understand it's a moment. We cut to the clinic, and Jimmy is talking to Gaby, and Jimmy's just trying to be a nice guy, trying to help Gaby out. He's like, what if you shake things up a little bit with Maya? Because you're having problems. You meet her outside of the office. And, of course, he's just talking about Jimmying.
Yeah.
What has been come to known as Jimmying. And she says, I'm more of a boundaries girly. And then Paul makes his triumphant return to the office in the middle of this, humming the Indiana Jones theme before saying,
Fantastic.
The goat is back. That was pretty cool, wasn't it?
It was. Great bit of nostalgia.
He's clearly happy to be back, but this joy will be complicated as the episode progresses. But I want to stop just for a minute because I mentioned earlier, it seems like Harrison Ford's having a good time. And this lampooning of a character he's done before just seems so out of character for Harrison Ford, the actor. Is this show changing him? I'm still jumping on this bandwagon of this might be his best performance ever because he might be the happiest he's ever been. Harrison Ford is a dude kind of known for his grouchiness.
So you're saying Captain America Brave New World Order wasn't his best acting?
It probably snapped him out of the grouchiness, if we're being honest. Getting to be the Red Hulk was probably everything he ever dreamed of.
Let a lot out.
Yes.
Do you get that feeling with him, though?
Yeah. And so he's done interviews and has talked about how he enjoys this cast that he's working with and the scripts are intelligent and he feels like he's at home. And I want him to feel like he's at home.
So he's at a point where he can be vulnerable is kind of the word. You know what I mean? He can let loose and be him.
Yeah. I mean, the only way we know for sure is if we get him on the show.
I'll try reaching out.
We go back to Brian and Charlie and baby Sutton. And we check in on the guys and the baby's crying. And listen, I can tell you, this is a thing. where the baby's crying and just not much she can do. Just try to comfort the baby. But I sympathized with their plight here. And we ain't the only ones checking in on the boys, as Liz is spying in on with her bunny cam, and she is unable to help herself and starts speaking through the mic. Bicycle the baby's legs. Baby had to fart, which is a thing.
Happens.
I love that she just can't help herself.
Yeah.
And I think that they were appreciative, but also like, knock it off.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they both look around like it's the voice of God. They're both looking around the room and then realize it's Liz. The most hilarious part of that scene is when Brian realizes he's on camera.
Got to have that footage.
Yeah, he's like, can I have that footage? Send that footage to me. Sean and Marisol have fully reconnected. They're a couple once again. Marisol, we met 2 episodes ago.
Yes.
He brings her over to Derek and Liz's house to see, to meet them, but also to see the toilet from God. That cannot be oversold. There's a funny aside here where the wife is like, Derek's being unintentionally creepy. And the wife's like, don't worry, he can't see inside the guest house where Sean stays. And Derek has this look of like, what? Derek continues to be one of the funniest characters on the show.
Love him.
This guy should just play everyone's neighbor. He's a great neighbor to have.
Yeah. What's his name again?
Is it Ted?
Ted McGinley. Oh man, he's so good, dude. He's like one of my favorite parts of this show. It's great.
D-Train.
The D-Train.
And the wisdom.
Oh,
The
yes.
wisdom that comes along with D-Train is next level.
But Sean later tells Paul after, the funny toilet stuff, which do we need to find out what's going on with their toilet? I mean, this seems like a important piece of information
It
we've been
has
denied.
a heated seat.
It's heating the bottom.
Yeah.
I think I need to know.
I think that they talked about it in a former season a little bit, right?
Oh,
It's
yes.
been referenced before. But Sean later tells Paul that he's changed a lot since they dated, and he's worried about when she realizes how much he's matured that maybe she won't stick around because she's still the same person. She's like this kind of crazy, have fun person that he used to be. To which Dr. Paul is like, so you have a future imaginary problem that you just made up.
He's correct.
I think I love this. That's what I love about this show more than anything else is the constant messaging of the show is live in the now.
Yes. It like that situation definitely could happen, but it isn't a for sure it will happen.
Right. Yeah.
Isn't that relatable, though? I think we all kind of do that.
Oh.
Create this hypothetical, like nothing to back it up, really. It's just this situation that doesn't exist.
I think once you add in the backdrop of our current culture and society, it's pretty clear that we live in a victim culture because of social media largely. We've made it cool to be a victim, I think, where it's a feeling of like, oh, look, I get attention when I call out the fact of what's happened to me, how I've been beset upon or whatever it is. And so I think with all this as the backdrop and the idea that, the statistics say we're the saddest civilization in the history of human civilizations. We are also the most luxurious. We have everything we could possibly want.
Also living in the safest time.
Yeah, and it's the safest time according to the numbers. So it's a weird little juxtaposition, but you can understand why. Yeah, we've been trained to constantly look down the road and think what could possibly go wrong. And Paul basically telling him, hey, maybe you just have fun and date a girl.
And just own the moment.
So then there's this whole story with Gaby's class she's teaching. And so if you remember earlier, we said that she got a call, her speaker jumped out, and Jimmy is the guy she's going to bring in as the guest speaker. And she throws Jimmy into the deep end, having him speak to her students about his unconventional style.
Oh, I was so mad as soon as she said it.
Jimmying.
So are you okay with Jimmying?
I am. There is definitely boundaries, and
Yeah.
I think that there's a way you can do it without it getting past a certain point that you shouldn't. But he's had some epic failures.
Yeah.
Especially in the first season with it. And so if you asked him to speak about cognitive behavioral therapy or something along those lines, don't change it last minute, because him being prepared for one talk and then having to give another talk, that's A, going to leave you a little flustered, but B, this is something that it's still a work in progress and something that he isn't just throwing out there willy-nilly to everybody.
Yeah, she sets him up bad. And she sets him up because she's mad at him for which she hasn't really admitted to herself yet. We find that out later. For what it's worth, he's great at first. He's like iPods and Jell-O, wants radical ideas until someone, and he points to himself, was brave enough to dream.
Well, I mean, you think about Jell-O and how like fish bones are ground up and you get the gelatinous material, and
It's delicious.
It's great.
Even when you said that, gelatinous, that made me hungry.
It's like, no, this is weird and bold. So, yeah, I love the analogy.
It does beg the
worked
question of, and we should do a whole episode on this, on food items that were like, who was the first person to try this? Who was the first person who thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grind up these fish bones.
Exactly.
And come up with some way Jell-O. Like, what? No. Why would you do that? Who's the first person to eat an egg? I mean, look, I love eggs. They're delicious. But when I think about the first person to do it, I'm like, nope.
Or
You had to go through a lot to get
That's
to that
morbid.
point. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
like Into the Wild with the berries. Like, oh, did the leaf have veins or not?
So Jimmy is not prepared for this. The students are challenging him. It starts to get chaotic. And Gaby, of course, does not have his back. She's kind of fueling this fire. They're like, well, what made you take the leap from traditional CBT to recklessly intervening in your clients' lives? Where are you at with Jimmy? You kind of said a little bit.
You kind of have to be careful because you're talking about confidential information. And so the person has to be okay with it. Like, you can't just be like, oh, we're going to go to a coffee shop today, and then you're going to talk about your childhood trauma.
Yeah. That's a good answer. Snaps for Cody.
Yep.
Yeah. That's
Thank you.
that's another gimmick in the scene. Also, one of Jimmy's patients has hilariously come to the class with them and speaks up to defend him against his wishes. He's like, no, don't do it. But that's played for some comedic effect. She says, what other therapist would come to my home and sit on my bed and tell me I'm amazing? And everyone's like, oh!
That is an ethical boundary that was crossed.
And the whole time, Gaby is reveling in Jimmy's embarrassment.
I was so mad at Gaby because she knows the ethical boundaries that are being crossed, and yet she literally has a student wearing one of her cardigans.
Yeah. Well, and Jimmy mentions this. She's like, oh, so you're the girly with the boundaries, and yet you've had a student over to your house. And she's like, well, she's not a client. She's a student. Like,
That's better.
Okay.
There's still ethics within teaching.
But they did a good job without banging you over the head with it, that she has no real basis for this argument she's making. It's all anger. It's all emotional. When they're back at the clinic, Gaby's kind of unloading it on him. A lot of the pent up feelings she's been holding on to since Tia's death and his struggles after, and her having to kind of watch that, which is all valid. Her having to watch him kind of go through these struggles. It's well talked about in this show about how Liz basically had to take care of his daughter. And I assume Gaby had a part of that too. And finally, Jimmy, for his credit, is not being emotional and just said, like, when does forgiveness come back into this? When do you realize that I'm back? Like, that I went through a tough time. He doesn't try to lie about it. He doesn't say I didn't go through a tough time. He said, but I'm through it now. And he finally leaves by saying, whatever you're doing with Maya, it isn't working. And something has to change. Don't miss out on helping her because of how messed up I was. Great delivered line.
Gives me chill bumps every time.
Yeah.
Her not wanting the help with her clients. Also, not good practice because therapists are encouraged to staff with their coworkers tough cases. Like, you might not have a good insight into a client, But someone that's worked with similar clients in the past might be like, have you tried this? And create ideas. Now, if that was her justification for being angry, that would be one thing, but it wasn't. I'm upset with her professionally and also personally.
Yeah, and she is helping. She is reaching out because in the middle of all this, Paul reads out a text that she texted to him about getting help and advice, to which Jimmy gets very upset. In the middle of all this, an absolutely hilarious Michael J. Fox shows up.
Loved it.
As Gary, ducking in because Dr. Paul's in there the whole time this is going on. And he's here for his appointment with Dr. Paul. And then he apologizes for disturbing what he assumes is a session for people who are angry about being tall. Man, there are no words for how much I love Michael J. Fox. He's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I just want all the Michael J. Fox scenes to happen.
Yeah. I think if you get nothing else out of this season, that someone with his condition can say, because I know that people that get this kind of sickness, what comes under attack is their utility. They think they can't be useful. And like, I'm just saying, look at him. Yes, we can all see he's got a condition, and yet there he is, still him.
And owning it.
Still hilarious, still amazing actor, just wonderful stuff by him. And I think it's just a great reminder for people that, you know, we're all probably, at some point in life, we're all probably going to get something that we have to struggle with health-wise. And that may end up eventually ending our lives. And this is just such a great example of how to keep being you. Mm-hmm. It's just awesome. I love it. I love it so much. We go to Paul and Liz. They get to have this sweet moment where she shows up at his office and he's like, no. She just walks right into his office. She wants more advice on Matthew because Matthew, they're still having a problem with Matthew because the older brother has called and said that he doesn't want Matthew sleeping at his house anymore either. Liz gives him a rock, which is her thing for when she really cares about you. She says she's grateful and she says she loves him and that he doesn't have to say it back. But he does, because this is the new Dr. Paul. He says it back and she says, I'm going to tell everyone. And he says, no one will believe you.
I love that about Paul.
And he's right. No one will believe her. But apparently Paul's idea was to let him move into, is it a rental or is it a part of their house that's in need of repair?
I think it's a rental that they own a building that they've been trying to renovate. And I love their dynamic because when they first start like interacting with each other, it's very awkward. And then he also uses the wrong terminology for their interactions. Now they both see the value of each other and appreciate each other. And it's a good relationship growth arc.
They're filling in Matthew on this idea of fixing up this place and tiling, painting, putting up new drywall. And Matthew's like, I don't know how to do any of that. And Derek hilariously says, that's what Professor YouTube is for. Derek excuses himself, but snags a bag of Matthew's candy on the way out. This is not normal candy, as we find out. Cue the funniest scene in the entire episode. Derek has eaten way too many of Matthew's gummies.
With substances in them.
Yeah. He gets emotional with a mannequin. He asks for an ambulance because he's been poisoned. He starts calling everyone and having hilarious paranoid conversations.
Which this is how some people do respond to those things.
Yeah. But again, Ted McGinley, it's wonderful stuff. He owns this episode. Even with all the emotional stuff going on, this is the best part of the episode. Paul's session with Gary is another great highlight of the episode. He tells Paul, Gary tells Paul, or Jerry. Is it Jerry or Gary? I think it's Jerry, but it's spelled with a G. He tells Paul that he's generally an optimistic person, but once a year, the reality of having Parkinson's hits him pretty hard. He tells him how unfair it is, how hard it is, and how boring it is, which results in a nice gag of him talking about voice exercises where he's like, which the face he makes when he's doing that, I was just dying. I was just rolling. Again, Michael J. Fox, masterclass. but the repetitive exercises, the limitations, and the grind of it all. And Paul introduces Jerry to the field. He says, envision it, a mysterious warm cloud of energy. And Paul, of course, it's the thing that shows you what you need in life. But as we figured out last episode, Cody, this is just Jesus, isn't it?
It is.
He asks Jerry to close his eyes and listen. Jerry turns it around and insists Paul does it too. And as Paul sits with his eyes closed, he has a vision, or several, flashes of the meaningful interactions he's had with his daughter Meg, with his wife Dr. Julie, from the beginning of the episode, and then Sean, of all people, all painting towards this slower life focused on the people he loves rather than his work. And I gotta say, Cody, by the time you get to Sean asking Paul, what could be more important than spending time with your family? And you get the camera switches back to Harrison Ford and his bottom lips quivering a bit. I was tearing up, man. I was like, oh.
So what did you think of this moment, Rob?
I just think it was a moment of realization for him of what's actually important, where he's put a career ahead of everything else.
Yeah.
And that realization of like, I've had it all.
Yeah.
I've had it all this entire time.
Yeah.
And I want to go get it. I want to go enjoy that.
He's so excited about going back to work. It's all he's wanted for like the last however many episodes. And then he gets to have this moment where he realizes, oh, wait a minute. Actually, I don't want that.
So I love the vulnerability that happens in this session. Initially telling Jerry about the hallucination with him, just eating cake.
It was good cake.
It was good cake.
But also that he was willing to do something that he asked of his patients. And his patient asking him, why don't you do it with me, is something that oftentimes I feel like it's easy for us to give out advice but not actually practice it. And when you go that extra step, it makes the connection more real. It shows that you are actually compassionate, that you're going to go alongside them on this journey. So
Well, it all works together because remember he told Sean, like, hey, just live in the now. Just go on dates with your girlfriend. Just why are you thinking about this problem that may or may not happen in the future, and just live life? And so it's like he's in that mode. He's realizing it's all about him too, because he's talking to Jerry, who says when he's sad that he ended up having Cherry Garcia ice cream in bed with his wife and kids. And when he kind of asks him, what are you going to do? He's like, well, I guess I'll stop and get some ice cream on the way home. And Dr. Paul says, good answer. And then Jerry says, we'll see you next year. And Paul says, we'll see. And then Jerry says, good answer. And like, it's again, another testament of, hey, we're not looking to the future for good or bad. We're just living life as it comes. And that's probably the theme of the episode.
yeah.
Gaby and Maya. Gaby shows up partially because of the argument with Jimmy, and partially because she really is out of options with how to reach her patient Maya, or her client Maya. Gaby decides to try Jimmy.
As we all have thought about.
She shows up at the bar where Maya goes for trivia night. Maya is there alone, which immediately you understand that, and it's like heartbreaking. That you assume someone that goes to pub trivia nights is meeting friends there, and she's all alone. Her 3 former trivia friends have all moved on with their lives, and Gaby joins her team, and they win because apparently Gaby is a huge Lord of the Rings nerd.
Aren't we all?
Yes, we are.
That's
and
fair.
Afterward, Maya opens up in the parking lot. This is the breakthrough. She's deeply lonely. She's feeling left behind while the world moves on. It's the first time Maya has truly let Gaby in, and it happens because Gaby stepped outside her clinical comfort zone. And for what it's worth, I too have also competed in a trivia night as a one-man team, and it was sad.
Yep.
My team name was Wolfpack of One, by the way.
It's a great name.
Because I like to laugh about sad things. What'd you think about this scene, Cody?
Again, if you can find a like or a strength or a hobby that an individual likes, that might reveal something about them. And if you can get them to start to share Oh, I love that it actually worked.
Yeah.
The jimmying herself into Maya's life.
But isn't it because Maya is probably not truly having some mental dysfunction? She's sad. She's lonely. What she needed was a friend and not so much a therapist. Remember, she gets kind of sent to the therapist by friends that are concerned or coworkers that are concerned.
And loneliness and like not having friends is something that can be kind of worked through in therapy. Like, oh, what are you doing to actually put yourself out there? How are you trying to connect with people? Are you purposely just fornicating yourself in so that way you don't have to deal with people and go through heartbreak of them leaving because one of the trivia people moved to Florida and
one joined a cult where they don't use their phones.
And so like those things happen and people shut themselves off from the world, and her connecting with Gaby might cause her to actually try to invite other people or actually do things outside of just trivia night.
Yeah. So we get this scene with Liz after she's left the hospital with Derek. And all the hospital scenes are hilarious, by the way. Everybody should really watch the episode to get those. I'm not going to talk anymore about them because otherwise we'll just be saying lines from the episode. But she gets home and she's talking to Brian about how embarrassed she is by Matthew's the kind of the son they've been having trouble with, his absence. And she says some pretty mean things, not knowing Matthew has just walked in carrying Derek's favorite French fries to bring to the hospital. He hears every word and he leaves hurt, sets up a rift to be resolved in the future episodes, I'm assuming. But right now it's bad. Kind of lost in it because of the end of the scene is this interesting thing that Liz and Brian were talking about, where Liz admits to Brian that she doesn't know what she's talking about with the whole parenting thing, that she says, I've raised a circus troupe of man boys, which is one of the funnier lines in the episodes. And he says, listen, I've met all your boys. I'll never know which one is which, but they all have great hearts. And there's a truth to that as a father of multiple children. Some of them are grown. People say to us a lot, like, whoa, what's your secret? Your kids are so good. And I'm like, well, one, you're not at home with us. You don't see them at their worst. They're on their best behavior when you see them. But what I tell people a lot is like, as parents, you're going to mess up your kids. That's bottom line,
A lot.
period. You're going to mess up your kids. If they know you love them, they'll be fine. Yeah. So, Rob, do you have kids?
I do. I have 3 actually, and I've messed up a lot. No doubt about it. But I think it's working through those moments with them and being vulnerable, getting to their level. Like, hey, I messed up, but let's be better from this, and using those moments that I think Liz could do. Not to give Liz advice because she knows everything, but you know what I mean.
I think this is the great part about Bill Lawrence shows is there seems to be this like really honest relational stuff that he puts in his show, the stuff that ends up just being really true. And I was glad this part was in there because Liz is built up to be like this super mom. And here she gets to be really honest. And like we've seen that her kids struggle, but she gets to be honest and say, I'm not. But then like, she also gets to have a friend speak into that and say, actually, no, you guys have done something right.
Yeah. So I do have a prediction for the end of this season.
Okay. Tell me the prediction.
Okay. So
is it going to be a sad thing?
It is.
Oh, fatalist Cody's in the house.
The hospital, there is one thing that we didn't bring up. And that is D-Train has a heart murmur.
Yeah, so kind of hidden in all the comedy, the doctor kind of rattles through some things like, we found something with your heart. Could be the 650 milligrams of THC.
Could be.
Let's hope it's that.
But yeah, I was also like, they didn't just drop that in there for nothing.
So now I'm thinking Dr. Paul will stay with us. That they teased, kinda, during his wedding. Meg went without her husband. Was kind of flirty. Maybe Meg and her husband go through a separation and she moves back to California to be close to her dad before he gets a chance to move out to her. And then we lose Derek.
I don't like that talk. We can't lose the D-Train.
I thought this was supposed to be a happy thing. What are you doing?
Everything's been going too well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that.
And you have seasons where things just seem to all be clicking in place, and then all of a sudden, like a spouse might lose a job or the water heater breaks.
That is bad.
Something like starts it, and then it just snowballs, and you're looking at all the negative things that are happening around you instead of acknowledging that, there's some negative and positive things that are happening.
Derek just had a heart attack. Who cares about that? The water heater.
Yes.
It's a real problem.
That's my fear, is that we're going to lose D-Train, but we might get to keep Paul. Otherwise, I'm hoping Paul does actually move to be closer to his daughter and the grandson, and that would be nice. So
it can't be as simple as Jimmy's daughter just moving away. We can't be sad that way.
Nope.
No.
It can't be that simple.
They're definitely setting up for a transition in the cast, I think, because the last scene is Paul alone in his dark office, and Jimmy and everyone, half the people watching, think he's dead at first. Because I thought the same thing. I'm like, don't you do this to me, show. Don't you do this. Jimmy obviously finds out that Paul isn't dead. He's just sitting in a dark room in his chair, slumped down. And Paul admits what the field has shown him, that he's ready to stop practicing, and not a break. He's talking about retirement, and he's decided that his remaining time is better spent with the people he loves rather than in the office. But the episode ends on a lingering shot of Paul's empty chair, which serves as the emotional gut punch to close things out. And all of it is happening with the playing of this week's song of the episode. It's a song called Just One Break by Josiah and the Bonnevilles. Have you heard of them, Cody?
That's a made-up group.
With Monrovia, who I have heard of, and Monrovia is great. He's worth a look up on Spotify. But Josiah and the Bonnevilles are essentially a one-man band. So here are the lyrics, Cody, and see how they match up with this episode. You're walking through your darkest hour, running out of power, right before the dawn, looking for a ray of light in the midnight sky. Time keeps moving on. Maybe you could roll that dice one more time. See if the number's strong. All it takes is just one break, and you were right all along. So the resonance here is deep on multiple levels. The song is explicitly about a person who's been grinding and doubting themselves for so long that they can barely see past this darkness, and then arriving at kind of a hard-won realization that all the faith they put in themselves and in others was justified. And that's Dr. Paul, I think. You know, like Jimmy and Gaby aren't perfect, but his faith in them is being realized. We see that they are very effective at what it is they do, albeit in completely different ways. He's watched Jimmy himself and his patients slowly become whole, and yet Dr. Paul has struggled to let himself receive that same care. So he's got the Parkinson's diagnosis, which has forced him to reckon with the idea that his time and energy are limited. And this moment in his dark office, where he finally tells Jimmy he's ready to stop, that he wants to spend time on what he has left on the people he loves, is the moment that this song is playing through. And he's planted the right seeds. The field did work. He was right all along, Cody.
I'm intrigued to see if, because he talks about the having to sell the practice, the clinic, like what's that going to do for everyone that is there? Yeah. Is this Gaby's ticket to go work at the mental health hospital? Yes. Is this Jason Siegel's time to like do his own thing?
They're definitely teasing a cast transition, aren't they?
Potentially.
Like, couldn't you see that Jimmy could buy the practice, but then he'd have a whole new staff, and you'd have a whole new like inner cast, basically. Well, it is time for our Who Grew moment of the episode. This week's growth moment, I think a lot of them grew. We did Paul last week, I think. But I think I'm going to give it to Gaby this week, because Gaby hasn't been shy about her feelings on Jimmy's approach to therapy. She clearly thinks he's reckless. She thinks he's sloppy, and she's not wrong per se. But underneath all that frustration has always been something more personal, which she finally spells out. And Gaby and Jimmy share this grief. They both lost Tia. And watching Jimmy stumble his way into breakthroughs with patience while she was playing by the rules and struggling made her boil over. So when she unloads on him in the clinic this week, it wasn't really about methodology, which we've already talked about. It was about everything she's been holding in. And it just kind of unloads. But here's what's really awesome about her story in this episode, that even after that argument, even with all that raw emotion that's still unresolved, like that doesn't really get resolved. She doesn't really forgive him. And he just kind of ends the conversation with like, would you just try it? Like someday you're going to have to forgive me. But even after that argument, she still shows up at that trivia bar for Maya. She jimmies. And she steps outside of every instinct that her professional career usually revolves around. And Maya, who's been closed off for the whole season, finally lets her in. And so Gaby doesn't just jimmy. She's not just jimmying, but she's also swallowing her pride. She's setting aside her emotions, and she trusted someone who she's still figuring out how to forgive, which I think is a huge grace moment. We're not talking about just professional growth. We're talking about personal growth. And I think that's why she wins the Who Grew Award for me this week.
I had my money on Liz, but
like I said, there was lots of options. Liz grew too, but then the moment at the end of the episode where she messes up.
But then has that conversation of like, I'm not a perfect parent, acknowledging like, I don't got this all figured out. And still being vulnerable enough to accept the compliment at the end.
I think she might get it in the future episode, because I think what we're heading for is an apology. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's like good parents apologize to their kids a lot.
Mm-hmm. All the time.
When I mess up, it's like once a week. I tell people once a week I'm apologizing to my kids at least. All right, Rob, how many gummies out of 10 are you giving this episode?
Ooh, gummies, man. This one I thought hit pretty good. I'm gonna go 8.5 gummies for sure.
That's the number I had in my head.
Yeah, I'm going 8.5.
That's wild, because I was also gonna go 8.5. It's an 8.5 kind of episode. We are unanimous. This was a good episode.
That's a great episode.
And after a couple episodes where I thought like the narrative structure got a little dislodged by Brett Goldstein having to go back to Ted Lasso, maybe them having to rush that a little bit, I thought this episode got them back on track.
It definitely sets up for a strong second half of the season.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm excited, although I'm not excited by some of the things Cody has me thinking about now.
When you're shawning it up, anything can happen.
I'm going to be Dr. Pauling it up. I've wanted to be Harrison Ford since I was 4, so why stop now? Rob, thanks for coming by.
I appreciate the invite. It's fun.
You're welcome to come back anytime and talk about fun stuff with us.
Yeah, that was great.
What did you think, listeners, about this episode of Shrinking the Field? What are your thoughts on Dr. Paul and Liz and Jimmy and Gaby? Tell us in the social media posts for this episode. And, of course, subscribe so you don't miss next week's episode. And we'll see you then.